let's talk about product market fit and problem solution fit. So let's remember project Homejoy. They get 40 million investments. They selling for promo price cleaning services. The normal price was $85 and promo price was $90. So of course product was very popular just because it was like extremely cheap. And whenever you see Paul Graham, who is a very known investor, said that it was like best ever, fastest growing we funded. So it was really providing good results. By the way, when the fast growing started, they had lots of problems like not enough employees. They started hiring Mexicans. There were some issues with illegal employees, blah, blah, blah. But at the end, nobody would like to pay full price for cleaning. So they didn't find the market fit. I will about market fit a little bit later. Just start with examples. One more example, Fab. They were like Etsy killers. Somebody ever called them Amazon killers. They start selling fashionable, unique, limited goods. And it's like was Etsy, but with limited edition. And they get 150 million. The growth was very nice because CEOs, they invest a lot in marketing. It was like really very carefully prepared PR. So they have spent 300 millions for the product. And by the way, the company cost about 1 billion at maximum. Yeah, so when money gone, product gone. The main idea is that founders said that they need more money to succeed. But in real life, they just didn't find market fit. Why? Because it doesn't change user behavior. You can buy fashionable things once, but you will not spend time for it forever. For example, you buy, I don't know, milk at the same place, you buy Amazon at the same place, the same things, but you do not buy fashionable things here forever. So it doesn't change customer behavior. Also, BranchOut. The project idea was to find an employee through Facebook. Of course, the product was very viral. Of course, product was it was word of mouth and it grows very fast because of that. But in real life, if you have a big company and you need to search employees, you will never use Facebook for a long time just because it's fun, but your friends are not your employees. Sorry, not your employees who search for new employees. And product closed. So product didn't find the market fit. So it wasn't needed, and it was impossible to earn enough income from the audience. So what is this market fit? Why these 3 startups failed? So market fit, it means when your product can grow for a long time in the market and develop and earn enough money. It means if you have market fit, it means you can grow, you can have a lot of money on that market, and it's enough. Or if there are not enough space for your product in the market, it means you don't have market fit. So the product matches the large market expectations. So it's very nice definition. So if you have product market fit, your retention curve will be like that. It means somebody start paying you from the first period they dropped, but later they stay for you for a long time. We have product when we have retention lifetime more than 10 years. So its retention is very nice. But for some products, you see retention is very bad. So just after 20 periods, let's say weeks, no user left. So here you can just earn enough money. For example, you have $10 per month and you have 100 months when people pay you. So it's like $10 multiply $100,000 per customer. But here you will get only 200 because after 20 months, means that kind of product gets $1,000. This product will collect only $200. For some projects like dating, like casino, like I don't know, maybe casino is also sticky, but also like dating, you just match and you don't use this product anymore. Or for example, you need to buy a car, you go, for example, a flat, you go to the portal, find a flat, bought it, and you'll never visit this portal again. So for that kind of portals, usually it's not, retention is not so important. But for SaaS products, for hosting services, for e-commerce, is really very important. Also, there a term when it's like retention curve smiles. It means like people, let's say with Evernote, they put some data. When is much more data in the product, they start using more often. So when you start using Instagram, let's say you have 10 friends, 20 friends, once you have 10 million followers, blah, 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 you will use it like every minute possibly. So usually this effect is when you input lots of data in the product, so you will start using this product much more often. And also it's when it's network effect. About network effect, I will also record separate video, so to share the information. Also, to understand if you have product market fit, you can just ask your customers. Let's say we did it for all segments with our customers. We a little bit afraid how we ask a customer, if your accounting data disappear, how will you be upset? Of course, but we still did it. And for some segments, people were highly disappointed. For some segments was less. And I really recommend you to do this. Just understand how sticky is your product. And if you have people are highly disappointed, it means you can increase your price a little bit. But if people do not feel any stress, if you disappear from the market, small change, you increase the price and it's dead. So usually it's like 5 types of answers. I'm very disappointed, blah, blah, blah. And if 40% of people, of your customers, very disappointed, it means like you're on the right market. And by the way, it's very important not ask your friends, not ask your partners, but just regular customers. Maybe you can ask some partners, start with them. Maybe you can ask some very angry customers, but usually it should be a middle. So talk with your middle customers. And you do not need to ask all of them. Ask, let's say 20. So it's really sometimes enough to understand what is happening. So let's remember, we analyze, we search for the value, and then we scale it, grow. And we have working business model, we need to scale, and we see if it's enough space at the market for us. So market fit is here. So let's remember, we find if problem exists. We just test if our solution fits well. Then we build the product and then we advertise it. So in that step, execution, product market fit is extremely important, because if we have right product, it solves customer need, it solves customer problems. But if there are no money at the market, it's a big problem for us. We need to search it somewhere else, maybe on a different geographical area, maybe on different customer types. But we need product to find product market fit. And also do not forget that product, it means problem plus solution. So if we have only one of these, product not exist. So problem, solution, it means product. And if we talk about problem solution fit, so it's other fit. So it means like user have a problem and we need to create a solution. And is it enough space here? So is the problem really big? If customer, like, I don't know how to say, if there's some energy here. By the way, most popular fails. Startups solve nobody's problem. So startup just didn't analyze the customer. Startup just creates a solution. And also, sometimes startups take the problems that is impossible to solve. For example, we will do delivery in 20 minutes. How? So technically, delivery takes time, and it's also a big problem in all e-commerce. But maybe Amazon and with droids will solve it. But still, delivery is a big problem in e-commerce. So we need to find the problem, validate the solution, and then start creating a product. So we need problem-solution fit here. So is it some energy here? So do enough customers, is it a big problem for the customer? And this problem should be very popular for that customer audience. And this is good solution. If it's really we have hungry customers and they wait for our solution and they're really satisfied with our solution, with our possible solution, it means we have problem solution fit. And then once we find the problem solution fit, we can create the product and switch to product market fit. So thank you for your time and see you on the next video.